to our behind the scenes approach and our look at Tapestry Table from behind the scenes. I'm so happy to have with me from Procter and Gamble Company, Scott B. Hobart. Scott is a personal advocate of diversity, equity, and inclusion. He is a sponsor of many activities and initiatives at his organization. Scott serves as the North American Dental Schools team leader. I'm so happy to have Procter & Gamble as a continuing partner and sponsor. I mean, you've been very active in the area of diversity and inclusion and received lots of accolades. One, World's Most Admired Company 2020, number 23 in Fortune magazine. America's Most Just Company. I think that's awesome. Also, a number 15 in the Wall Street Journal Management Top 2050 Companies, the Best Employers for Diversity, number 3, Forbes, Bloomberg Gender Equity Index 2020. Scott, Procter & Gamble is very much a leader. Can you share with us some of the things that you're doing internally and externally to support diversity, equity, and inclusion at Procter & Gamble Company?
Yes, and thank you, and good morning, Dr. Smith. This Saturday, we're going to celebrate our 183rd anniversary at Procter & Gamble.
Wow.
And so we believe it's been a really great place to work for nearly 2 centuries. But we also believe that as one of the world's largest advertisers, P&G has a responsibility to be a force for good and a force for growth in our world. We believe our advertising can communicate more than just product benefits and positive patient outcomes. Evidence suggests that the more familiar people are with individuals from other groups, the more tolerant they become. And this can happen through our commercials. And that's why I want to focus on the last bullet point there on the screen. In recent years, we've taken a hard look at ourselves and realized that we had a lot more to do to understand and serve multicultural consumers with our brands. And evidence of this can be found in the strong showing for several P&G commercials in the 2019 Multicultural Excellence Awards event. Let me give you some examples of what those commercials are and how they advocate for various multicultural groups. For instance, the experiential marketing grand prize winner was a commercial we called Queer City Pride and Progress. The LGBTQ grand prize winner was an advertising named First Shave. The experiential marketing category winner was hashtag Black Girls Do. My Black is Beautiful at Essence Festival 2018. People with Disabilities Award was an advertisement we named Your Best Never Comes Easy. The digital, social, and mobile category winner was Redefine Black, a call for change. And then The Look, a commercial that examined how bias can reveal itself from a mere glance, won several awards just on its own. And I hope you understand that we are not creating these ads to win awards, but to elevate social justice and support the common good. So those are just some of the examples we're doing, Dr. Smith, with the resources and the microphone that Procter & Gamble has to support diversity throughout our company and throughout the country.
And thank you, Scott. Thank you so much. I'm really excited about the things that Procter & Gamble that they're doing to increase and improve representation, particularly in advertising. You're really taking a lead, and representation really does matter. Scott, thank you again to Procter & Gamble for being partners with us and for the work that you're doing in the area of diversity, equity, and inclusion. With us also today, we have John W. Seal III. John is the project manager for medicine, process and delivery, research and development, medicinal science and technology at GlaxoSmithKline. Thank you so much to GlaxoSmithKline, GSK, for serving also as a sponsor for the ADEA Tapestry Table. GSK is doing a lot in the area of human rights and access, diversity and inclusion. They received an award for Best Place to Work for the LGBTQ equality from the Human Rights Campaign Annual Corporate Equality Index 2020. They've been named, and they earned that a score of 100% for the last 14 years. They have been named the best of best corporations for inclusion by the National LGBT Chamber of Commerce and National Business Inclusion Consortium. You see Working Mothers 100 Best Companies list, Forbes Best Employer for Women, Best Place to Work for Disability Inclusion, also receiving a 100% score on the Disability Equality Index. Forbes Best Employers for Diversity in both 2019 and 2020. So John, I'm so happy that you could be with us today. Could you also share with us some of the things that GSK is doing to promote diversity, equity, and inclusion within your organization and in the community?
Thank you, Dr. Smith. Yes, I'm John Seal, and I use he, him, his pronouns. GSK is very proud and honored to support ADEA and this Tapestry Table event. Just as some background on GSK, we are one of the top pharma companies in the world with global businesses in pharmaceuticals, vaccines, and consumer healthcare products, including oral healthcare products. We're also the majority owner of ViiV Healthcare, which focuses solely on HIV treatments in the HIV community. I wanted to highlight our Spectrum Employee Resource Group at GSK, which is going on 25 years of existence, has 2,500 members in 38 different countries, and they work very closely with our inclusion and diversity colleagues over the years, advocating for and obtaining domestic partner benefits, medical benefits for transgender employees, the implementation of gender-neutral bathrooms at most of our US and some UK sites, and voluntary self-identification, which is used for talent management and equity, as well as many, many other things that we push for. Recently, GSK has established a social issues response team. This consists of key stakeholders in the business that review social issues that are highlighted by our own employees. So in the LGBTQIA space, this has resulted in GSK signing on to amicus briefs to the US Supreme Court in support of marriage equality, and also in support of Title VII of the Civil Rights Act covering LGBT plus individuals. We've also recently joined the Human Rights Campaign's Business Coalition in support of the Equality Act, which is currently in Congress. A few years ago, GSK also created a global LGBT plus council, which consists of senior leaders who have oversight of LGBTQIA policies, support, and advocacy. The Global Council has undertaken activities like supporting the United Nations LGBTI standards of conduct for business, and identifying key regions and countries where we have a footprint and where we have a large market share to increase the focus on the inclusivity of LGBT plus people, both internally and externally. Just in terms of education and support at GSK, we do offer internal LGBTQIA training in partnership with organizations such as PFLAG and the Human Rights Campaign. These include topics such as allyship and sponsorship, bisexuality, LGBT plus health disparities. We also utilize our knowledgeable and diverse employees to present on such topics as intersectionality and mental health, two topics that are relevant now in 2020 more than ever. We also encourage personal storytelling, and just today we had an employee share her story of transitioning in the workplace. Now I'd just like to focus a little bit on what we do in the external environment. So first and foremost, we understand that representation is key for our patients and our consumers. So since 2018, we've been part of a multi-company Unstereotype Alliance, wherein we've committed to reflecting the diversity and the richness of our consumers. We've included depictions of LGBTQIA individuals in our advertising for multiple products, and even partnered with the Gay Times in the UK to produce a really, really wonderful set of ads and an accompanying article that focuses on the importance of such depictions. As mentioned previously, and before I wrap up, GSK is the majority owner of ViiV Healthcare. They're the only company that solely focuses on HIV. ViiV Healthcare takes a holistic approach here: education, treatment, prevention, and access to care for all people living with HIV. As part of their work, they provide community grants to improve programs and services for people living with HIV, and they have implemented many positive action programs in the communities, that focus on those disproportionately impacted by HIV, such as Black men who have sex with men, the Latinx LGBTQIA community, transgender individuals, and they do this to reduce the stigma and to increase their access to care and to address their critical needs. So Dr. Smith and ADEA, I hope I've been able to give you a flavor of what GSK is doing both internally and externally to support our LGBTQIA employees, patients, and consumers. And it's been a privilege to sponsor and support ADEA to speak here today.
I want to thank you, John, for being with us today. I want to thank GSK for being a partner with us and for sponsoring Tapestry Table. Again, you are very much leaders, and we are excited about the work that you're doing. Again, John, thanks for being with us today. We were talking about, if we could save the world kind of thing. And so, Dan, you were telling us about a study that you were going to do, or that you wanted to do.
Oh yeah, I'm doing the study right now, actually, if anyone wants to take it. It's looking at the inclusivity of forms, and it's of dental forms and dental offices, and basically asking people what their experiences are, and whether or not and actually I guess it does ask too also if they ever avoid going to the dentist because they're scared. And I think it's we don't have a lot of information, so I kind of feel like it's hopefully like the first of many studies we can have that give us more information about the community. Because I think, like for myself, even when I go to the dentist, I'm like, well, I don't really know if I should tell them, and like probably shouldn't tell them my pronouns. I'll just sit here while they misgender me the whole time. It's fun. And so
I'm not sure exactly if everyone heard the conversation we had with Dominique, or that Dominique shared, but Dominique was talking about the mouth being the gateway to the body and how important it was. And so, Dominique, for those of you those who may not have heard you, can you just talk to us about your experience and I heard you say that a dentist saved your life. Can you just kind of share that story?
So, I just feel like the mouth is just the gateway to the whole body. We focus on the body as itself and think about healing, but we don't realize that if we don't take care of our mouths, then all that stuff goes down into us and can infect us. And when my dentist started to tell me these things, I realized that was so important for me to actually see a dentist, so important for me to get there. But in trying to get there, there were so many barriers. Like at times you would see the flag on the door that will say, okay, it's a gay flag, but then I'll go, okay, it's not my flag, but oh, whatever, well, maybe something. Yeah. And then you get inside and you are just totally shut down. You meet with people that are not friendly. They don't understand about inclusivity. And so speaking to what Dan is talking about, we realized that, and I was director of programs for a nonprofit called Destination Tomorrow. And we have been trying to get forms changed and add stuff for the longest. And we were very happy when we started to see inclusivity in certain forms, in certain spaces. Going to the dentist, I realized I needed to work. I realized that I thought I would just go in and I would have, okay, maybe a cavity or two. What I came to find out was I ended up losing 3 of my teeth at different times, for the simple fact that sometimes getting into that dentist chair was nerve-wracking enough because you're in a waiting room with people and you're realizing that the space is not friendly to you. And then someone at the counter may have been at the club the night before and they're in the closet, so they out you thinking they're protecting themselves, and then they make it difficult for you. And so when I was going to pose, the dentist that I went to at Lincoln Hospital actually looked at me and said, these appointments are crazy. You're going to be going from appointment in January to one in September to one that we don't know when. By the time you get there, you'll never be able to get what you want done. And I told her a bit of my story. I'm an immigrant. I'm trying, I'm fighting, and I was just really at the end of my rope. My smile meant everything to me, and I did not want to be on television without a beautiful smile, but I did not have thousands of dollars to just go get stuff done. And when she took care of me, it was just so amazing.
Dominique, that is so important. You're right. I mean, the smile is so important. What you said, the gateway, with the mouth being the gateway to the body, it really goes to the move in dentistry and all of healthcare, where we're talking about integrated healthcare and treating the whole person is so important, and the importance of humanistic care. ADEA did and has an out and safe webinar that's on our website free. And one of the second webinar focuses on health patient equity. And one of the things, I mean, Dan and Erminio are part of that team, and they talk about the importance of forms and protocols and things like that. Dominique, I guess a question for you is, as you think about things that dental education can do, or even higher education, because I mean, you went to college. Tell us about, like your experience in college and possibly some things that we could do differently to make it a more welcoming and supportive environment.
Well, when you go out into the world, you're not going to find people that are going to be accepting of you. And first off, you have to realize that it's not for anyone to accept you, but it's for you to accept yourself, and then protect yourself from those who may not accept you. So you have to try your best to get into those spaces that you know yourself from, not what they tell you you should be a part of. In college, I have to say it was difficult for me because I, at that time, did not even understand what trans was. I just knew that I am the way I am and I'm different. And then people started to see me differently. They started to take advantage of the femininity. They started to take advantage of just me as a person. People that, I thought would be cool. And then when you go speak to someone that's of LGBTQIA plus identification, then now you're put into a bubble, and then everyone is now at you. So colleges can try to be more open and inclusive in the groups that are formed. In doing everything, make sure that you are looking out for those students that are ready to come out and say, I am transgender, and find and provide them with safe spaces to be able to commune.
One of the things, Carter talks about, or, Carter and I had a conversation about, was that the number of youth, and in terms of the transgender community and support for youth, and healthcare issues around suicide, issues around, representation, and how important representation is. One of the things I know that colleges can do is have, in your databases, when you register for class, when students are applying to class, make sure that you ask them, a preferred name. And it's not, I had a student, his name was Robert. He went by Bob. Just ask the preferred name for everyone. So it's for everyone. It's not just for one group. And then the other thing I know also is, when I talk to students about graduating, they're like, Dr. Smith, I want my preferred name on my diploma. And so it's thinking about those things in advance and working with students. Carter, do you have anything you'd like to share, or a question you'd like to ask Dominique?
Yeah, I think back to when I was applying to dental school, and the anxiety. I was out as gay as that at that point in my life, but just thinking, how am I going to apply to dental school? Do I out myself in the application? Is that going to make this harder? It was just like a small piece of stress added to the process. And I think, to kind of go back to some of the other things we were talking about, having a safe and inclusive school really helps people succeed, because you think about, kind of the backdrop of what's going on in people's lives. And there's the stress from dental school, but there's also the stress from dealing with your community, or dealing with violence and things like that. And I just want everyone to kind of take away from this that if anything else, treat people like people, and really help to keep people comfortable, and let them focus on what they need to do. You don't need to create extra barriers, and you should really remove barriers. One of the things I'm kind of curious about with Dominique is kind of, we look at how things have changed over the past, 10, 20 years even. Representation has kind of become bigger. And we're seeing more shows like Pose, which is awesome, by the way. And things that we're seeing experiences shown on the screen. So I'm just kind of curious if you would speak maybe to what it's like for you to be able to see these experiences on screen and act in them and share your gift with the world. You know, what does that mean to you?
Well, actually, it means the world to me. It means everything to me. It is not just a dream come true. It is validation that if you really stick to what you're doing, no matter what profession, as long as you're trying not to bring harm to anyone else, you can succeed. When I look at the stories, I am not going to tell you exactly how old I am, but I have been a part of an era where I was getting the information and those ladies were dying. Those ladies were becoming, the ballroom scene was changing, but I kept gathering in the information and still focusing on where I really wanted to be. And to be honest with you, after Strut, I thought it was over. When I got director of programs without actually having a degree and was able to do the work and trusted to do the work, that was like awesome for me because it was like I found safety. I found validation. I found, a peace of mind. And that's what led me to be able to feel comfortable enough to go in and audition for Pose because I already had some kind of security and support. And seeing Pose and being able to now transfer those stories that I got from those ladies that are no longer with us and being alive today to be able to tell the story. Sometimes on set, it brings me to tears because I wish they could be here because these women were just so fabulous. But again, it feels really amazing. And I really feel blessed to be in the position that I am today.
Dominique, I read your book, The Transsexual from Tobago, where I've been, where I am and where I'm going. I love the book. And it kind of warms my heart because my favorite chapter, I was telling the Access, Diversity, and Inclusion team, said my favorite chapter is where Dominique lists all the names. It's a memorial to individuals, transgender individuals who have suffered violence and who are no longer with us and may not have received justice. And also I noticed that you do it on your Instagram. And so thank you for doing that. One of the things you brought up was Strut. And I've been, one of the things I've been thinking about is that there was a documentary called Disclosure, I think, on Netflix that talked about with transgender actors and writers and people in the film industry. And they talked about how in film, oftentimes that transgender and the LGBTQIA plus community, they're stereotyped that they're either in the hospital, they're sex workers, or they're dying of HIV. So one of the things I like about Pose, it shows people living their everyday lives. It shows the family and that. So how, in terms of the creative process, how has, I think the writers and the actors, how have you gone about making sure that you embrace or that we all see the everyday lives of transgender individuals outside these stereotypes? And how important is that to you?
Well, I have to tell you, thank you for all of that. But I have to say, Mr. Murphy is an amazing man. And sometimes things have to happen in the right time. So when I walk onto set, when I get my scripts, the research is done so well that sometimes I'm looking at it like these words were actually spoken. He has gone out into the community, hired consultants who have lived this stuff and has taken parts from them. He got deep into us in order to be able to tell our story. And he didn't take the story to try to take it and give it to someone else. He took that story and kept it for us and about us. What was the other part?
Oh, no, just, one of the things I love about Pose is that people, like you said, it breaks down the stereotypes. And how important is it to you? And, even, if as a youth, if you had Pose around, as a TV show, what would that have meant to you, Dominique? How would that have impacted you?
What that would have done for me if Pose was around when I was growing up. Well, of course, there's the side that I probably would not have become a lecturer because we wouldn't have to tell this story now, but it would have saved me from so much. Because the one thing I realized about Pose today is that parents are opening their eyes. I tell you, when we tell these stories in Hollywood, they're seen, the world sees them. And if I had that, I would have been spared so much. I would have not been homeless, I believe, because I would have been able to focus, like Carter said, you have to focus on going to school and defending yourself and then coming back and then dealing with your own anxiety and feeling ashamed of yourself, especially if you grew up with certain faiths, you know? So all of these things come our way.
You know what? One of the things I know, Arminio works at Rutgers, and you said that it's interview season. You know, one of the things, looking at what we're talking about today, can you just tell us one of the best practices that Rutgers or that you all do in support of LGBTQIA plus students who are applying?
You know, I think that the most important thing is visibility, you know, and I think that the students, at least in our school, they feel comfortable to being out. You know, I think that, can I say this? I think that we need more dental schools out of the closet. And then the thing is that the generation is changing. Now we are seeing more students that they're disclosing on their essay application. And then the thing is that, you know, our committee is aware of all of that. And our committee is really inclusive. Then at the moment, in the way that they're coming into the interview and they want to share with us whatever that they want to share, we embrace it. I have to be honest on that part. You know, I think that once again, visibility is really important. The fact that we have an actual club for the LGBTQ community here in the school, also that makes a difference. You know, when our students are coming for the interview, we put all those videos, we let them know how inclusive we are and how important is the community in terms of the student population and how they support each other.
You know, Arminio, one of the things that I try to remember is that diversity and inclusion, everyone wants to belong, whether we admit it or not. We want to belong. I didn't say fit in, I said belong. And so when you talk about diversity and inclusion, belongingness and diversity and inclusion cannot be separated. If you do not promote inclusion, if you do not support diversity and people being their authentic selves, then you lose the belongingness within your community, you lose the respect. And so as we think about that in dental education, I mean, I know that with the CODA standards, the Commission on Dental Education, one of the things that we're trying to do is to basically create a more humanistic environment. Dominique, we had some individuals when they registered, one of the things that they did is they asked some questions ahead of time as part of registration. So I'm going to ask you my favorite question out of all of it. So you have to put on your Electra character, okay? So this is Electra they want the answer from, okay? So this is what the question, it says, Dominique, what advice would Electra give the audience or dental education in dealing with the current socio-political climate in terms of racial justice? What would Electra tell us to do? Or what would she advise?
Well, I do believe Electra would first of all ask for everyone to do their makeup, get into their closets, look the way they're supposed to look. Everyone must look fabulous. And she would tell everyone she's not going to show up, but she would organize a march and lead it at the very last moment.
You're right.
She would lead it at the very last moment and probably have one of the senators in her pocket working behind the scenes. Yeah, Electra gets it done. You know that character.
Yeah, Electra does get it done, and you're right. She would be behind the scenes, making sure that everybody knew their role, knew their place, and she would be managing the politics, all behind the scene. So you're right. I think that Electra, however, you know, when I look at Electra, one of the things I love about her is she is authentic, but she's frank. She is blunt, but what she says, it's so much wisdom in that character, Dominique. And so as we, you know, move forward in our country, and, you know, we have an election coming up, you know, with civil discourse matters, political participation, but civil discourse matters, no matter how it comes out. And so we want to make sure that as part of our diversity, equity, inclusion, that we can continue to promote that. So Electra, I mean, one of the things you wanted us to think about is kind of like some key takeaways, I think. So I don't know, now that we've kind of gone behind the scenes, Herminio, Dan, Carter, Dominique, while we think about our key takeaways, Dominique, that you're gonna ask us, what are one or two key takeaways that you'd like for the audience in dental education to have?
Well, I have one major takeaway, and that is that, and I've said it so many times, and I'm always going to stick by it. In order for us to really understand, we have to look at our foundation as human and not sex. We have to realize that they're human beings standing right next to you. And when it comes to the election, I want you all to know, please, as an immigrant who cannot vote yet, I am anxious. So many of you have to vote for me also, and for many of the immigrants that have gone through so much over all these years. Many of you may feel that voting is not going to make a change. I heard a young woman say it last night, and it nearly broke my heart. Please, I implore you to get out there and vote. And I hope I don't have to tell you who to vote for. I'm just.
Okay, that is so funny. You know, Dominique, you're right, because what you're focusing on is human rights here, and that everyone should have a right to health care and equitable health care and access, and it goes to social determinants of health, and that everyone should have access to housing and employment, which are all lead to basically improved health outcomes. It's a human rights issue. I mean, come on, let's be honest. Black Lives Matter, anti-racism, Me Too, DACA, all of these issues impact health. And also too, when we talk about the LGBTQIA community and these issues, I think that what we're talking about is even more important, because oftentimes we silence the groups. You talked about intersectionality. So it's kind of like when people hear me, they go, oh, she's from the South. And the joke is people from the South aren't very smart. And so it's like, I'm more than that. I'm an African-American woman, you know, you don't know about my history. You don't know the things of, you know, where I'm from, my struggles and things like that. So can you just kind of speak about intersectionality and how important it is?
Well, for me especially, intersectionality is like at the forefront of everything. Number one, I'm an immigrant. Number two, I'm a Black Caribbean woman, West Indian woman. Mm-hmm. Number three, I'm under the LGBTQIA plus umbrella, and sometimes I have to actually relate to people that I am trans. Mm-hmm. And within all of that, I am a woman. Mm-hmm. So when I fight for rights, it's not just Black lives. I have to fight for Black lives and trans rights, because that's who I am. And a lot of times that gets so, you know, discombobulated. Oh, why would you fight for these rights? You're a woman. Stay away from that. No, because we should make the world so that it's better for those that come behind us. Right. Why should people, my motto is, why should someone have to come behind you and suffer the same things that you suffered if you went through it and made it? We have to learn to build those bridges.
Yeah.
Yes, definitely. I agree. Okay. I'm trying to think. I'm going to let Dominique take over and ask about key takeaways because I have to think about what mine is. Okay.
Okay. So I will say this. I have heard all of you today, and I just think you are absolutely amazing. Thank you for the work that you're doing. Thank you for the inclusivity and all of that. And I can tell that all of you are trying. But I want to know, what is it that you would like? I'm going to ask you like 2, maybe 3 questions, if I may. One, what is it that you got from today speaking to me that you think will help you change when you have to deal with trans individuals?
Okay, I'm gonna start. I'm gonna tell you what is the main takeaway from me. You said it's a humanistic aspect. And then the question is, how do we get in there? Because some people can hear the word humanistic, but they don't know how to get in there. And I think that they have to go back to when at the beginning, they were applying, in our case, to dental school. I hear repeatedly in those essays that we receive, I just want to be a dentist because I want to change the world one smile at a time. That's humanism. I want to go into dentistry because I like that interaction between the patient and the dentist. That's humanism. You see, the vocation. In the Caribbean, we talk about a lot about vocation, right? And I think that is tackling again, going back again to that vocation. That's what is going to make you a humanistic clinician.
Thank you. Anyone else?
I'm gonna give a bit of a cheater answer here and say that I think it seems like you and I are very much on the same page about a lot of things. I think that's partly like shared experiences a little bit. And so, but I really like the story that you shared about the doctor I think you had who did like research on like your culture.
Dr. Shukla.
Yeah, I think that's so awesome. And like, I love connecting with patients. Like I'm that person on the application who said like, I think the relationship is more important than the filling that I would do on your teeth. But I guess I never really thought of like actually going and researching like someone's background. And I think that that's a really cool way to connect with someone. And so I might have to try that one. I don't know.
Cool. I really appreciate that. And I told you, there's something about you that just brings joy to the world. So I also hope that you're going to work with kids, but it's not my dream, it's yours. So I just think you'll be absolutely awesome. So here's my next question. And I have to think about the wording for this really carefully. So to each of you, you are now in a space where there are no trans people. You're not sure if anyone there is trans, but comments are being made, things are being said, there are actions, there's behavior. After today, what do you do?
I'm gonna start, and then Carter. Well, I have a different role at the American Dental Education Association. I'm the Chief Diversity Officer. So my passion is diversity and inclusion. I'm a lawyer, and I have a doctorate. And so I believe that education is the reason I am where I am. And so that's why education is so important to me. But the whole social justice piece, I can't help it. Depending on the situation, I'll determine how I'm going to handle it, but I'm gonna call out the behavior because it's inappropriate. And depending on how it happens, sometimes you have to call it out publicly, not to embarrass anyone, but sometimes you have to call it out. The other thing is I'm all about providing support to individuals. I'm the person that roots for the underdog. And so I've been in situations where members of the LGBTQIA plus community were not being heard, and there were microaggressions, sometimes macroaggressions. And there's a way as an ally and as a friend and a colleague to just be supportive. And that's very important that you are seen supporting an individual. It's easy to tear somebody down when everybody else is tearing them down. We need to be building them up.
Yeah, I love that. I think that's exactly kind of what I was going to say. It's so important to call out the behavior, and maybe even more important to take the time to address the miseducation moment where maybe somebody doesn't understand what they're saying is harmful, telling them it is, and being there to advocate and protect you know, those that may be anxious to reveal their identities. You know, it's up to me, knowing what I know, and being an advocate for people to take my position and say, hey, just so you know, that's not cool, you know. And I think that that's something that if everybody just kind of learned from each other and listened to feedback, even when it's a little bit uncomfortable, you know, everybody would come out ahead. And again, just I love the theme of today is humanism, right? Let's treat everybody as humans, and don't necessarily, you know, react so hurt when you're corrected. Just accept it and work with it. I think that's really important.
And there's a way to do it, Carter and Dominique. I think there's a way to do it. And that doesn't mean that the person's going to be happy with you, but I still try to be respectful and everything. And, you know, I try not to embarrass a person because, like you said, they may not know. And we all make mistakes. And I'm not about the cancel culture. Don't cancel a person just because they make a mistake or because of their past. We're all on a journey and a process and evolving. And that's about being on the cultural competence continuum. We are on a continuum towards being more culturally competent.
I also think what you all are talking about, like being allies and speaking up, is so important because like it shouldn't rest on the community that's already being oppressed to argue to not be oppressed. Like it needs to be other people. I think I actually saw some study that said in terms of race, like when you had a Black person call out a white person for racism and then you had a white person do the same thing, they reacted so much better to the white person calling them out. And so I think that can just be applied to like all of these things that we're talking about, where it's like when you're an ally in that community, you using your voice is so important because it creates change and it creates space for people who are part of that marginalized community to feel safer and more included and more open. So
and that's called, what is it? There's a term for that. Dr. Ben-Simone at USC, I think she calls it equity mindedness. In other words, it makes no sense to put the burden for making change up on this group that's being oppressed or discriminated against. They already have enough stress. So the burden should not be on them to have to fix the problem. You should collaborate with groups and individuals, you know, in terms of inclusion to make sure they're at the table, part of the solution, but the onus should not be on that group to fix the problem.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I will tell you one thing also, though, that I discovered. So I decided to start college over, and I'm doing it online, of course. And this is, well, the world is going to know, whatever, but it'll take me forever because my acting schedule is crazy.
is it dentistry?
What I discovered, no dentistry at all. No, see, I know who I am. Okay, it wouldn't work for me. And as I was, oh gosh, I was, it slipped my mind. You got me. Where was I? Oh my God.
You said you were going back to school.
Yeah, you're taking online
Yes,
classes.
and so I got into this communications course, and I thought to myself, why do I even need this? And it was just basic communications. And in going through it, everything that you all just described, everything that you said is exactly what this course speaks about. And I think if a lot of individuals could have some kind of communications course or something like that, that has the actual LGBTQIA+, has Muslim written in it, has, you know, identified these groups that sometimes people may be discriminating against. And a lot of times, I will tell you this, we ourselves don't even realize when we discriminate against our own. And that is something that we have to be mindful and check ourselves for. So I really do appreciate you all for all of the answers that you gave today. Thank you.
Dominique, you know what you just described is what we're working more on in dental education, which is a culturally infused curriculum. In other words, we don't want one course on diversity. We don't want another course on cultural competency. We want it infused in all the courses. We want issues around diversity, equity, and inclusion to be the norm. We want it normal, that it's part of the conversation in every course.
Yeah, and that's what I say to people at times. I'm like, I wasn't trying to be an activist or advocate or anything. I just wanted to be normal. I wanted to feel like I could be normal. I could go to the dentist and I can sit there and not have anxiety. I could go to the doctor and he'll take care of me and not see parts of me and look like he's about to throw up. So all of these things, you just want to feel like you are what society says normal. But now that I'm a lecturer, I know there's no normalcy here for me. So yeah, it's not, I'm going to be full-time fancy for the rest of my life.
I just have to take a second and say that I watched Pose like before we were even going to do this. And so when I heard that you were going to be a part of this, I had a moment where I was just like, and then
He sure did. Oh, excuse me, Dan. They sure did. When we were supposed to do this at annual session, Dan, they begged me, can I just stand at the door? Can I just escort her to the stage? I was like, Dan was sending me text messages at night.
I was like, so you think I can meet her or?
Oh my goodness. I would have loved that. Yeah. Because I'm telling you, like, your energy is so amazing. I would have loved that.
Yeah,
and what you're doing too, someone like you needs to be promoted and spoken about a lot. And sometimes we don't do that, to be uplifted and empowered, to let people know, look, this person is here, and if you are, and not everyone can do that, because for some people it's about safety issues and stuff. But if you can be out and be yourself, and even though we still have anxiety at times, trust me, but just to see that you're there, it brought so much joy to me for this conversation, because I'm telling you, I'm exhausted, but just seeing you live your truth and hear everything that you're speaking about doing and relating to the community. And you also, Carter, and Dr. Amino and Sonia, but especially to you, and I'm just gonna have to be a little thin because they, them, thank you. So I commend you.
Thank you. It was so great to meet you. Truly.
And Dominique, I know you've got to go. Oh, Erminio,
no,
go ahead.
It's something really quick, because unfortunately, that I wish we were all together. We missed a lot those meetings at ADEA. That's the family away from home, but can we take a screenshot picture with you while we are all smiling? Because we'll have the opportunity
to take that.
I know,
listen, I was so busy and everything like that. My family was going to join me in DC and we were all going to just have a great time.
No, Sonia, I'm going to take a screenshot from the computer.
Okay,
the only thing that we have.
But I had to send that to my mom. I had to take that one. You can take a screenshot.
Then what we're going to do is we're going to smile at the count of 3. 1, 2, and 3. There you go.
Yay.
Oh my God, it's beautiful. Thank you so much.
Thank you. We know that you have to go. To the panelists, our ADEA members, I could never do any of this without you. You make the difference. So with that, I'm going to say goodbye to everybody. And thanks again. I love the behind the scenes. Everyone have a great day, great evening. Goodbye. So they can stop.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye, darlings.
Bye-bye.
Bye.